India's vision to emerge as a major manufacturing hub for EVs represents huge opportunities for the auto sector. While historically India has been very good at cost engineering, there are challenges to be overcome to realize this vision. In the next panel discussion, we'll get to know the experts' input on localizing EV supply chain, challenges and opportunities. I would like to invite Nabil Khan, editor etauto.com, to moderate this panel discussion. Platform is all yours, Nabil.
The automotive industry would have never felt the crisis or the importance of supply chain the way they are feeling the heat right now because of the shortage, global shortage of semiconductors. And that's really put us in a spot to understand the critical role of efficient supply chain in terms of manufacturing vehicles. A vehicle, traditional vehicles, which has been there for over a century, is facing such kind of problem, then what could be the criticality of a proper supply chain when it comes to newer technology, which is electric vehicle. So rightly, we are going to discuss this very critical aspect of electric vehicle, EV supply chain challenges and opportunities. What are the challenges that Indian electric vehicle manufacturers are going to face, and what are the opportunities they can explore in terms of putting itself strongly on the global pedestal? To discuss this very pertinent topic, we have a very nicely laid out speaker here today. Let me introduce to you Mr. Naveen Munjal, Managing Director, Hero Electric. This is one of the first electric vehicle companies that is started in India. We also have Mr. Ajay Kapoor, CEO, Aluminium and Power Business, Managing Director, Commercial Vedanta Limited. You know, aluminium is the second most used metal in automobiles, and that is further going to go up with electrification because of its sheer property of lightweighting. We also have Mrs. Suleja Firodia, founder and CEO of Kinetic Green Energy and Power Solutions. You know, Kinetic has been doing a lot of work in electric three-wheelers. We also have Mr. Arvind Goel, Managing Director and CEO of Tata Autocomp. That's a leading auto component manufacturer, and they have huge plans in electric vehicle supply chain. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining ET Auto EV Conclave. Let's begin with by asking Arvindji the first question to you. When we look at the auto component space in India, so far we have been built to print industry when we talk about the traditional automobiles. Now with electrification, a new age technology is coming where almost you're getting a level playing field if you compare to the world. How do you see this Indian auto component makers or the suppliers reacting to this change in technology when it comes to electrification of the fleet in India?
Thanks, Naveen. Certainly, lots of work needs to be done by the auto industry and the OEMs. And this time it has to be far more in a partnership mode to localize all the components. And as India did not take a lead in the electrification, say 7-8 years back, where a lot of money people should have put in the engineering, and it started only when the government of India started putting some regulations. So it was more a regulation driven industry for people than a technology driven, and therefore a lot of catch up needs to be done. We are therefore obliged to get a lot of technologies for the key components from international players, whether it is for manufacturing batteries or motors, including chargers for the market. And a lot of learning has to happen there. And specifically in the batteries, the key component is still the cell, which will always constitute to almost 65% of the battery price. And the cell manufacturing facilities have to be put in India. Certainly, a lot of local engineering has to be done. And very happy to see some of the government organizations doing a lot of engineering work there, and the private sector is now catching up later than the government sector in this way. And everybody is trying to get technology from international players, whether Korean, Japanese, or Chinese. Certainly, other parts of the batteries are easier to localize than the cell. And I think that is happening everywhere. Most of the auto component industry is trying to localize only non-cell parts because the investments are not very huge. And the key investment certainly comes into cell manufacturing. And certainly in Tata's, we have a huge plan to make cells. We already have about 150-acre land in Gujarat. And now we are in the advanced stage of going into the cell. And similarly, on the software side, where India has a real skill, so the battery management system, etc., localization, marrying the battery management softwares with the vehicle softwares, all those things, I think India should be able to do a much better job than many other countries because sheer software engineers are there in India. Same way on the electric motor, the type of the motors, the ratings, the inverters, the transmission, the whole marriage of it needs to be done. And again, technologies have to be bought in from outside. India is certainly very good at transmission. I think we are much ahead than many other countries. And the normal motors and inverters, certainly people have been making, but to make in a lightweighted motors to meet all the requirements of the industry is what some tie-ups are certainly required. You can get a technology license or a joint venture, the way you want to work. And certainly the battery cooling system specifically for passenger cars. And it is not so much required in the sense of the two-wheelers or three-wheelers to that extent, because the natural air cooling is sufficient. And unless the batteries are cooled to a right level, that can explode. So all those things are possible to be done in India, and we have been doing it. And last but not the least, we can't buy all the chargers internationally and then install all over the country. And so charger localization has also been done. And I think that's not a very earth-shaking technology. One can do on their own as well.
Thank you so much. That was really extensive explanation that you said, and your pointed opinion is that collaboration is going to play a key role. India has its strength in terms of software, so BMS can be one of the component that where India can be prominent player. You also talked about cell manufacturing becoming focused. That's very important, obviously, because cell cost is almost 50% of the total cost. You also talked about lightweighting. So in this, I would like to bring in Mr. Ajay Kapoor, understand from him how the aluminum industry, which is going to be a key component when we talk about lightweighting the vehicle, which will be very much required with electric vehicle. We people say that on every 1 million electric vehicle produced, about 2.5 tons of aluminum consumption will increase, if I'm not wrong. So 2.5 tons of aluminum will be used, if I'm not wrong. So just want to understand, Ajayji, what's your thought on lightweighting and a cost competitive aluminum that could be brought in for India, because aluminum is a costlier metal compared to the steel.
Yeah, so today, if you really look at it, the whole transition from ICE to battery operated vehicle, it's still at a very, very infancy stage. But we believe in the next 15 to 20 years, let's say 25 by 2030, this is going to go into a massive transformation. Now, like you already mentioned, the moment you go on battery operated vehicle, the most important element besides battery is the weight of the car or the vehicle or the LCV or even buses in future. Because the lighter the weight, the more the kilometer traveled. And that's where aluminum comes in. Now, if you don't go with aluminum, you will go with very expensive alloys. For example, every kilogram saved can contribute to increase the range by about 100 kg saved on a EV translates to about 10 to 15% range increase, like you're also alluding. I think that's where the whole game changer comes in. The carbon fiber reinforced composites, titanium, etc., can increase the cost to about 3,900 to even 900 percentage compared to normal steel. Whereas aluminium is a very preferred alternative for multiple uses. The vehicle's body, chassis, fairings, transmissions, etc., the magnets for speedometers, tactometers, airbags, and the EV battery enclosures. I think these are some of the areas which can definitely, aluminum can play a very big role. Aluminum demand in the electric vehicle in 2018 globally was not so much. It was about 250,000 tons. We believe it's likely to touch 10 million tons per annum by 2030. And I'll talk about India later, but I think there's adequate material available because aluminum also is a green metal. It is fully recyclable. So a good scrap recycling policy, which currently has been also envisaged in the new regime, that should also help us further make it into a very green and sustainable material to be used.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. This brings me to the actual manufacturer of vehicles. Just want to understand their pain point. And Suleja and Naveen, you can come in and give your comments on how do you see the supply chain so far. You have been here operating in the country for a long time, but there always been a complaint in terms of not having a robust supply chain in India for electric vehicle. Till recently, we did not have even one or two supplier dedicated to only electric vehicle. We did not have any dedicated subsidiary by the big corporate giants also. Only in the last 1 or 2 years, we have seen the people moving towards it. So just want to understand from both of you, starting with you, Sulija, then Naveen can join in.
Well, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. Very happy to be on this panel discussion. I think we heard from Arvindji and Ajayji the opportunities, in the development of auto component technology, for the EV revolution that's, about to unfold in our country. I want to give a perspective of an OEM now because we have been in this market for the last 5 to 6 years as one of the pioneering OEMs. Our first, and we have sold more than 30,000 vehicles, which are manufactured locally. As our first electric three-wheeler in 2016 had almost 65% import content because there was absolutely no ecosystem. We began with our design, but we got a lot of the parts built to print, with a partner, imported many components, and brought in the first vehicle. I'm proud to say that now from that period to today, we have made a great effort and great progress. We have almost 100% of our supply chain now localized. Maybe just about 5 to 6% parts are being imported, and that too is just at the tail end of completing the whole localization. So we actually have taken great efforts and pains to work towards a highly localized electric three-wheeler platform, whether it's an e-rickshaw, which is a low-speed vehicle, or it's an e-auto, which is a high-speed vehicle. And we have just launched our Kinetic Support Jumbo, which is a 1-ton GVW electric three-wheeler for last mile logistics. It has a 500 kg payload, top speed of 50, independent suspension, hydraulic brakes. So well-designed vehicle suitable for all Indian terrains.
So what kind of trouble you faced in terms of?
I'm coming to that. So I want to share from our personal experience. We found that there is a lot more work needs to be done by the auto component sector for electrification, for supporting electrification. I have found that we had to work very hard to bring suppliers on board. Many of them were not interested. Many of them found the low volumes to be a pain because they're used to supplying. And we are in three-wheelers, or Naveen is in two-wheelers, where the volumes are very high in India. So they found the low volumes to be uninteresting. So we began working in our own group companies, to develop technology. We began working with a few new independent, suppliers like, let's say, Hella, who was interested in electric vehicles. But there's a lot more resistance and reluctance, and I would say lethargy on part of the existing established auto component companies to really come forward and become electric vehicle component suppliers. In my opinion, this needs to change because the chicken and egg story can only go on for so long. I think time has come for the auto component industry to look at this opportunity, to get collaboration with the leading partners around the world, to bring in good products so that there will be mass production and the cost of local components will come down. Today, what we are sourcing locally for our EVs is more expensive than what's available in China. Even after freight, logistics, and duties, we are still paying a 10 to 15% premium for buying parts locally. And this is because there is a small volume and there is high amortization cost that is being built over a small volume. Are discouraging their suppliers from supplying components to EV sector because they want to somehow push back the whole transformation. This is also actually genuinely happening. And I'm doing plain speak here, but that's the reality. And the summary that there is a great opportunity ahead, especially if this is favorable, battery costs are coming down. And it's high time that the auto component companies established and new make investments looking ahead, and certainly that will lead to a great long-term business for them, and it will also help the electrification vision of the government of India, which is now very much imminent. We are nearing parity situation over the next 1 to 3 years.
Okay, you talked about the cost, concern, because you see, even if you import, including the logistic cost, is still 15% higher than the cost that you incur, even if you add the logistic cost and if you import from outside, which is largely China. Naveenji, I just want to take your opinion. What's your thought? Then we'll go to the supplier and understand why the costs are so high. Yeah.
Thank you, Nabil. It's an absolute pleasure being here today. Thank you all for inviting me. I agree with Suleja on a number of these points that she's already brought up. So let's look at what's been happening in the industry. We've been in this industry now for about 13, 14 years, and we've got over 350,000 vehicles on the road. So there has been a huge amount of resistance earlier by the supply chain for actually investing into this. And the reason for that is, of course, that they are used to very large volumes. So when you go to a tier 1 supplier of any large, meaningful company, they're used to very large volumes. So that's exactly what commitments that they ask of you. The minute you say, okay, fine, you can't give them those commitments because the whole industry right now is still, even though it's at a disruptive model, but it's still at infancy in that stage. The numbers are still, the total industry is still less than 200,000 units of volume per year in terms of the two-wheelers, 156, 160,000 units, which is not meaningful for any large manufacturer to actually commit resources to. But at the same time, what they would want to do is just keep the door open and put their foot in the door, just because they don't want to miss that bus whenever it's coming by. But what we found in the last couple of years is some of them have started to make some investments into this. Earlier, it was all talk till about 4 or 5 years back. In the last 2 years, there is some investments which are already going in. Now, some of the components are much easier to localize than the others. So we've already been talking about the cell, for example. Now, the cell is a very difficult one to localize simply because we don't have those meaningful volumes in India at this point of time when we look at the batteries. Assemblies can be easily done here, that's not a problem, but the cell manufacturing itself. So when you look at the entire industry, the EV industry, whether it's two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, public transport, commercial vehicles, it's not large enough to support cell manufacturing at this point. So whatever is going to happen is going to happen for future production, which we believe is going to ramp up very quickly. The mechanical parts are easily doable here, the black parts, so to speak. So the chassis, those shock absorbers, those wheels and tires and brakes, etc., are easier done here than other parts. The problem that we face, besides the cell part of it, is actually even the plastics. So things like plastics, because for plastics to have very good molds, automotive molds, you need a number of shots per mold in order to really justify the volume and the cost that you're going to be incurring on those vehicles. So while Suleja said, about a 15% increase for her, we've seen about a 30% increase for us because of the plastics involved. So the minute you're localizing, you are looking at a higher cost. There's no two ways about it. But you have to localize because your volumes are expanding and increasing. So irrespective of whether there is a push from Atmanirbhar, from the government perspective, we in any case have to localize because of our volumes, at which we've already been doing, and it's been planned for the last number of years. Now, there are substantial opportunities that exist here. So, a lot of these companies who we've been talking to constantly for the past number of years have been kind of sitting at the current situation, but a lot of them have to start looking at what is going to happen in future. Now, one thing is clear that though there's going to be disruption of the industry, it doesn't mean that the supply chain is going to be completely destroyed or is going to completely finish. You still need mechanicals for electric mobility, no matter what form it is. You still need plastic parts. You still need a lot of there is huge amount of opportunity even for aluminum casting, for example. Now what's going to happen is, instead of what they are currently doing, there is reskilling required. So when you look at the aluminum manufacturers, for example, you need lightweighting for electric mobility, which is a very, very important case. In electric mobility, unlike IC engine, what's happening is a lot of collaborative model. And that's to do with the technology which is changing so rapidly. So when I look at it, I'm talking more about the lighter vehicles, not so much about the cars and other vehicles. But when you look at it from our industry, from the two-wheeler industry, for example, there is a very large collaborative model already in play here. And that's something that's going to increase simply because no company has the wherewithal to do all the entire supply chain. So what used to happen earlier in the IC industry was that your drivetrain was something that you controlled. That was your USP. How your engine performs, it was your USP. Now what's happening in electric is you are partnering with somebody else who's going to manufacture those batteries for you, the drivetrain, the motors. Control is probably the BMS and some of the other components. The mechanicals are going to be similar, so it doesn't really make sense for you to deep dive into those. So you would then rely on your supply chain for the non-critical components in that manner. That's changing, but it's a slow change. And so what I would expect and what I would request is there are enough opportunities. Like I said, lightweighting is one of them. Companies manufacturing pump manufacturers, for example, they have other opportunities because they're already manufacturing highly critical and mechanical. They're already manufacturing mechanical. They can move more towards electrical components. Precision powertrain manufacturers can move more towards electronic systems. There is an opportunity there, and reskilling is required. And even companies which are manufacturing, for example, fuel tanks for right now, which are the plastic ones, they can convert those fuel tanks into coolant systems for batteries, for cars, because that is going to be required. So there are opportunities out there, and there are enough and beyond changes which are going to be done. But there is a lot of reskilling required.
Thank you so much, Naveen. You put really, very exhaustive list of product. I think those auto component manufacturers watching this, they will take a lot of cues and probably implement in their strategy. Generally, we believe that cell manufacturing is the main evil that we are not doing, but that's of course requires a volume to do that. But you talked about the simple plastic parts which are not yet being supplied locally, and you have to pay 30% more premium if you want to get this at the from the local sources. Arvindji, just want to understand, India is known for value manufacturing or low cost manufacturing. But what I understand from what Mr. Munjal, Mrs. Firodia mentioned is that the even local manufacturing of parts like simple parts, plastic parts becoming 30% costlier. Why will somebody, source from local market these simple, components? Is the component manufacturer not willing? Is there a problem of volume? What is the problem? Why are we not able to support the manufacturers with the right price, right component?
Basically, as both Naveen and Suloja mentioned, that the prices go up when you make here in India, and anywhere between 15%, what Suloja mentioned, or Naveen said 30%. It's anywhere, it depends upon what part we are talking. And it's a matter of a volume, it's a matter of technology which people have absorbed. And therefore, to come to those pricing level, a lot of things have to be all these dots have to be connected. And it takes time. It does not start that electric vehicle part would become cheaper than the parts made in the other parts of China or some other place. It's a process in itself. And therefore, one has to work on it. Whether you want to start localizing and then keep importing is one option. And second is to follow the Atmanirbhar process, what the Government of India has been pushing. And in a step-by-step manner, you will localize things. I'll just give you a very simple thing, electric vehicle, at least it's a new animal. If you look at room air conditioners, all of you have room air conditioners in the house, all offices have air conditions all over the place. Do you know not a single air conditioner is made in India? whether it is Voltas or LG or whatever you buy, it is not made in India. Why? Because you import from China after custom duty, and it is cheaper to sell that than to make in India. Last financial year, India imported 18,000 crore worth of air conditioning units from China. And we are all from automotive industry talking electric vehicles and the other vehicles. It is a far difficult animal than making this air conditioner. What is there in air conditioning? It's plastics and condensers and evaporators and some compressors and motor. Everything is made in India. But you are not able to make at a price at point which you get from China. Now the government of India has pushed all the suppliers and all the manufacturers. They're all going to localize everything now. Same way in the, whether the plastic parts or the composites or the aluminum parts, there are a lot of issues. When the Indian pricing is coming in, the capital cost is high as compared to China. The power cost is high, and the productivity in India, even though the labor cost maybe is much less than China nowadays, but the productivity in China is at least 2 times in the productivity in India. So it's worth paying 2 times the salary in China, and you get much better production. So all these dots are getting connected by change in labor laws, change in land, the power tariffs to be given to industry. So all these dots, as soon as it gets connected, it may take 4 or 5 years time, you will become competitive. So the right step is to start localizing, even though there is a slight penalty on the cost, anywhere between 15 to 20%. And over the period of time, you will be able to catch it.
Already, Mr. Goyal, already the acquisition cost of electric vehicle is high. So localizing with a penalty on the cost makes them more, vulnerable. Their business case becomes a bit, vulnerable. How do you suggest that? And is the cost variation that we see in electric vehicle, is it similar in the traditional automobile also?
See, traditional automobile, you have fully localized, except for certain critical items on the electronic sides, etc., and is localized. Here, if government increases the custom duty on the imported parts of electric vehicle, then everybody will say, yeah, localization makes sense, because if you put custom duty of 20%, then you'll say, yeah, localization is cheaper now than importing. It's a question of how the government places that. In that way, nobody will ever localize parts in India. Today you are importing oil, tomorrow you start importing all these parts. So you have to have a balancing act, and at a point at which the things would move. And I'm not saying that the batteries in India will be expensive than China. It is a matter of, say, 3 or 4 years down the line, I can tell you, you will be not very high off after putting sea freight and assuming there's still zero custom duty, you will be very close to it. So cells have to be localized, the BMS have to be localized, the whole gamut has to be localized. Certainly in the cells, you would still import lithium and cobalt to an extent. Then, even though we call it lithium ion battery, the cost of lithium in a cell is not earth-shaking. And same way on the motors, you may still have to import permanent magnets and few other things. But over the period of time, when you fully localize, you should be able to meet requirements.
We'll discuss the battery side. But before that, I'll bring in Mr. Kapoor also and understand from him, because the point is raised again on the aluminum parts also, mechanical parts also. Just want to understand how do we see this situation improving? Now, why people have to be penalized in terms of cost if they want to localize? Do you look at your buyers, those who are component makers, looking at with a focus on electric vehicle to produce component for electric vehicles?
No, fully agree. And I think as one of the largest aluminum producers in India, we are very much aware of this, auto as a key area for us to grow and make sure that, we take part. As already mentioned by other panelists, for the EV value chain, there are 3 main focus areas for localization: battery packaging and battery management systems, auto and auto components, which was just spoken of, and finally the charging stations. Now, from our perspective as a key material supplier, as I mentioned already, Vedanta has been working very closely in partnership with our OEMs, with the auto industry in past. So we currently supplying aluminum sheets, slabs, copper wire rods, pig iron from our other operations for iron castings to support the domestic auto manufacturers. The launch of primary foundry alloy in 2017 for efficient manufacturing of alloy wheels was done by us. Is a product we actually worked for almost a year to develop it. It was earlier imported. Now it's produced in India. Recently, we have launched cylinder head alloy, again produced from our aluminum business to ensure adherence to environment norms. Again, an area of collaboration where we work with our OEMs.
Are these meeting the cost compliance in terms
Yes,
of?
because when you import, you also pay 7% duty, 7.5% duty. So cost-wise, we're very competitive. We are amongst the lowest in the world today, and we are already making more investments to make sure that we stay that way. We are also laying a lot of emphasis on research and development. We have developed crash-resistant alloys in the past for usage in the auto sector. In fact, as I talk to you, we are already contemplating setting up a center of excellence at Jharsuguda, which is a 1.8 million ton facility of Vedanta, one of the largest outside of China, to closely coordinate with the auto industry and develop new products and to be part of the India's EV story. And I know that typical homologation process of development of a product from concept to the shop floor is about 6 months to sometimes year and a half. So we already started working, and we are happy to sign NDAs of confidentiality with our partners in making sure that we are up there. India has enough capacity. Vedanta has enough capacity. I don't think that will come in the way of indigenization or localization. Fortunately, we have 4 million tons of aluminum capacity in India, and of which Vedanta has almost 55% share.
Let's go to the OEMs and understand the promises, the detail that you are sharing, how much they agree and how much they can take advantage of this available resource. But before, I would like to tell the audience, please post your questions in the comment box. Speakers are going to be available to answer your individual questions. Suleja, how do you take these two rebuttals or the response that has been given that we are ready, and you can also dole out a bit extra and go for localization in that list initial phase?
So again, I remain extremely optimistic about the future and I'm very bullish about the e-mobility prospects. But currently, I think I want to say that we are kind of stuck in a situation which is actually not allowing localization or locally organized OEMs to excel, especially in the three-wheeler and possibly two-wheeler category. Let me explain you why. Currently, the duty from China on Chinese imported components is very little. It is 0% on powertrain and only 10% on other components. There was a proposal to increase these duties under the PMP program, which government announced. These were pushed back because of COVID. Because due to COVID, a lot of local manufacturers of components have not implemented their plans to make components for EVs. So EV OEMs like us do not have the ability to localize everything so easily at competitive prices. So government has pushed back the whole PMP program a little bit. Second issue that is we are facing is that the government has also made very simplistic homologation standards for e-rickshaw and for low-speed electric two-wheelers, which is allowing unorganized sector players to import components from China, maybe substandard components, not even good quality, and set up viable electric three and two-wheeler projects. But for organized OEMs like us, if we want to qualify for the government's FAME scheme, which promotes good quality electric three-wheelers, it requires a large level of localization. And the slab is just inadequate that they have given in the FAME scheme, which is 10,000 rupees per kilowatt hour, to be able to make a vehicle in India with localized components and compete with the unorganized sector who's bringing Chinese components at very low prices and also has very low other costs, and sometimes the vehicle is not even registered or insured. So, we are stuck. Government wants to promote localization. They want to promote local components. They want to promote good quality three-wheelers, but their policies are not going hand in hand, with the actual situation. So we have made a representation to government through FICCI, for example, where I chaired the EV committee, that they must increase the slab on FAME, where they should give 15,000 or 20,000 rupees per kilowatt hour to organized manufacturers who meet all the localization requirement and are using good quality parts, so that they will be moved towards localization. And it will discourage people from using the substandard vehicles made based on imported components. Secondly, the PMP program must be pushed forward. If duties on Chinese components or imported components goes up, more auto component companies will come forward and invest in component manufacturing. So I think that these changes are required in order to really get people to come in and put up investments for making EV components, whether it is electric or electronic components, battery cell manufacturing. So the whole thing will go hand in hand, and we will create an ecosystem of good components and good quality electric vehicles on Indian roads. So some such interventions are required in order to make the potential into a reality, so that we get out of the chicken and egg situation, so that people come forward and invest in EV components, so that localization is affordable, and we are able to come ahead of China, which is selling millions of EVs, and we then can achieve government's objective of being a leader in EV manufacturing and EV component technology manufacturing. So increasing custom duties is required. Increasing slab for locally made FAME compliant electric 3 and 2-wheelers is required, so that the projects become viable. We get out of this whole import dependence. This is my.
Tulja, you pointed out the anomalies that possibly there in the policy, but you're talking about increase in excise duty further. I'll go to Arvind later on and understand what's his thought on this. But before that, I'll bring you in and Naveen and understand from you. How do you see the PLI scheme helping resolve a bit of supply chain issue? Do you think it will provide the required volume to the component manufacturer that they have been claiming, or they have been complaining about that because of the lack of volumes we are not able to produce enough to be viable? So do you think PLI scheme, which encourages people to export also and go into mass production, do you think that will be a trigger when you will be able to solve a lot of supply chain issues?
Nabil, you've got to look at this from different angles. It's not just one part of that's one part of it. It's not the entire story. So when you look at any industry, and especially this industry, which is a sunrise industry, which is a new industry, it's a very, very infancy and nascent stages where we have to grow this industry. Why are we growing it? There are numerous reasons. One is, of course, the oil dependency. Second is our pollution. And third is we are moving into a cleaner and form of commuting or transportation. Here, what is critical is first demand creation. So unless that demand is there, unless the volume is there, no matter what schemes we come up with, people are not going to, no company is actually going to invest heavily into it if the demand is not there or if they don't see the demand coming in. So that is the case across the board. It's a commercial transaction. It's a commercial decision that companies will take. And how is demand creation going to happen? The demand creation is not going to happen by making the vehicles more expensive. India is a very value sensitive and a value conscious and a price sensitive market. You have to bring the prices down, get the vehicles adopted in the market, increase the volume to a certain scale and demand and create the demand, and then start pushing for supply chains to fall in place. Now, for example, let's look at our current policy. So Suleja spoke briefly about it. Let's look at FAME 2. Now, FAME 2 has been in existence for 2 years now. The idea was 1 million two-wheelers on the road in 3 years, 500,000 three-wheelers on the road in a span of 3 years. We are sitting 2 years down. In total, the registrations are sub 50,000 units so far. So if our vehicles, if by now, 2 years now, we should have actually had a very large outlay of vehicles. We should have had a very large number of vehicles coming out of because of FAME 2. And that's what the whole idea was, to support this. So first and foremost, course correction is required there. We've got 1 year to go. If it continues in the same manner it is, it's not going to generate the number of volumes that we are looking at. And it's going to be a policy which is there, but customers are not adopting it. So when we launch any new product, any new category, any new channel, any new business, basically you have to keep on doing course correction. Is it working, not working? Is the market adopting it or not adopting it? If the market's not accepting it and we keep on crushing a product out, what's the point? End of the day. So we have to first and foremost course correct there, that why are customers not adopting the FAME 2 policy. So when demand creation happens, supply chains will also fall in place. That's one part of it. Second is, when we compare the IC industry and the level of maturity of the IC industry versus the electric vehicle industry, the yardsticks are very different. We are not comparing apples to apples. That's an industry which has been there for the past 50, 60 years. It's an industry which is a highly mature industry, and this industry is a nascent industry. So if you're putting the same restrictions on imports and on GSTs and on other parts for this industry, which is still a nascent industry where we want to move to, it's not going to work. So here you have to loosen the purse strings a little bit. You have to push this industry. And I totally agree with Suleja when it comes to homologation and standardization, for example, testing of the vehicles. Make it very stringent, even for the low speed vehicles. Make it a stringent this thing, so as to weed out all the fly-by-night operators. But what is already happening in markets where we are going in, we are finding that any company which is a non-serious company, not able to support the customers, the supply chain, etc., they themselves are dying out in the process. So as this market is expanding, they will fall out by the wayside. So only serious companies will be able to sustain this kind of business. So in India, as we see globally, there are numerous models on how electric mobility has been really approached. In some countries, it's a stick approach. In China, for example, there was a stick which was there that we will not allow you to sell IC engine vehicles in these cities. I'm talking more about two-wheelers, not so much about cars here. And we will support it by putting infrastructure in place and subsidies in place. You look at Europe, you look at US, you look at Japan, you look at other markets. Everybody has had a different approach, but very clear deadlines by which they want to convert.
Naveen, we have only a few minutes left, so I'll just request you to, I'll come back to you. Before that, I'll just go to the context that you just said rightly, that we need to create demand. Whatever policy comes, it will not be effective. People will not be encouraged to make mega investments until there is a demand. Arvindji, what's your thought? How can we do that? How can we invest if we do not have the local demand? Do you agree with this point that is made by Mr. Munjal? And also on the point of excise duty increase, do you think that punitive measures are going to help? A measure that is going to close your economy a bit, is it going to help?
Yeah, positively it is going to help. And government can give a time frame of say 3 years or 4 years for all these key benefits so that the momentum starts. And then once the momentum is there, if those benefits are reduced, say 5 years down the line, the momentum will continue. But today you see that whichever makes economic sense. See, Indians are far more looking at economic sense, and there will be few percentage people who are talking of environment, or it is only a cocktail talk. And in practicality, they would like to look at more economics. So three-wheelers and the e-rickshaws makes economic sense. So it is going to work with or without FAME regulation. See, in the car industry, we have seen if somebody is using it as a far more as a taxi around the day, it is making economic sense for him. A passenger car for personal use does not make economic sense. Certainly, it makes an environmental sense. You can make more stricter laws, etc. However, as Naveen says, if there is a proper support mechanism on GSTs and other things, it will create a momentum. And it's always good to create a momentum in such a key change in technology.
Thank you so much. Ajay Kapoorji, what's your thought on this?
I think eventually I agree that, end goal for everything that we do has to make, number one, ease of everybody. And I think being a green planet, being a, electric vehicle, having less emissions, I think all those are the right things to say. But do we really believe that eventually it will be better for the ecosystem? I do believe there are still technologies which I didn't talk about. There are for heavy buses, where the weight is much higher, I believe there is also an opportunity of aluminum batteries. And I believe while not getting into the technology of it, we are also talking to some people, some startups who want to sign up with us and, co-develop it. So I think a lot of things are going to happen. But what it really tells us is that in going forward, the whole ecosystem will undergo a change. And I think 15, 20 years down the line, the whole ICE sector transition will happen just the way it happened in the entertainment sector from, one Doordarshan to, today, the total different ecosystem. And forget Doordarshan, now you have Netflix and Amazon and so on and so forth. The same thing happened in the telephones, the mobile telephony. How fast the change happened. One couldn't imagine Nokia would disappear, and then BlackBerry also we don't talk about. And today we are in a very different age. The same thing is going to happen here. The questions in front of us are all there. I think the biggest is look at NCR region. Every year when winters happen in Delhi, one topic which is in the headlines for all of us is the pollution. And one of the biggest sources of pollution is the emissions from the vehicles. And I think, therefore, there is no brainer. This is the way forward. It's expensive. It will get sorted out. Likewise, the solar is again expensive. It's getting sorted out. And all of us as industry participants, my responsibility is as a primary producer of products. But we can go the next step. Join hands with our OEMs and develop products, set up centers of excellence, even encourage some startups, including startup fundings if needed. So those are the directions we would like to take as a group, which would like to see this transition happen.
Before we conclude this session, a quick final comment from all of you. What are if you want to sum up in 30 seconds, challenge and an opportunity that India has when it comes to EV supply chain? Suleja, you, then Munjalji, and then.
Quick summary, I think it's a great opportunity for the auto comp industry. Existing and new players both should look at making investments. There's a big disruption coming, and the earlier you get on the bandwagon, the larger pie of the business you will get. Yes, we want demand, but demand and supply will both go hand in hand. So this time has come to take a plunge, make some commitment, and with the better supply chain, demand will also increase. So I think we should not wait any longer, but make a constructive effort to build a local supply chain for electric vehicles.
Thank you. Munjal, Mr. Munjal,
Basically, we need long-term policies. So we have to set long-term goals to say that this is where we want to be. There would be different paths to get to that goal, but we need to set those goals first in India. The second is, as I already said, about demand creation. That is very, very important. And then have a long-term policy again for how do you manage the supply chain. Localization, etc., will happen and is already happening. We need to create that demand. So my thing is all about demand creation, creating the large economy and making it meaningful and making it commercially viable for the supply chains to fall in place.
Thank you so much. Kapoorji, yours. Final comment.
I would only say, fully agree with my other colleagues. Demand is there. I think demand is not a worry. It's the ecosystem where we as industry players, along with our other partners, need to work together with the government and make sure that this Atmanirbhar mission is fully implemented. I think we have the resources, we have the wherewithal, we have the brain power, and we have the money power. I think it's just getting it sorted, like I mentioned in other sectors. This is the next big thing which is going to happen, and I'm very confident. Next 5 years, the whole ecosystem will change, and the speed of change we cannot fathom even today how all the puzzles will fall into place. That's my take on it today.
It was certainly an interesting discussion. Various points came out very strongly. Let me just try to sum this up. The biggest problem that we are facing is the adequate availability of the component, even the component plastic parts, mechanical parts, which are beyond cell manufacturing, are not adequately available for the vehicle manufacturers, electric vehicle manufacturer, and they are still importing this at a 30 from the overseas market. And if they try to localize, the cost is very high, which is about going up to 25 to 30% even in plastic segment. What comes in is that until there's no demand creation becomes very important. Mr. Munjal pointed out that until there is no demand, I think the manufacturers will not be willing to go into a scale of production, high scale of production, which could make it economically viable. We also talked about cell manufacturing, which may take time because of the volume. But of course, there's a huge opportunity that India has and India can offer in electric vehicle space is by way of using its software prowess by providing BMS system. And even if there, but if you look at Sulja's points, she says that the India is ready, the market is ripe, and we can go full volume and probably go into high volume production, and we can become competitive. At the same time, there are certain policy anomalies that needs to be corrected. That's like she pointed on import of low quality component and assembly and selling in the market that is putting the organized player in a disadvantaged situation. So those were the key takeaways from this panel discussion. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. Stay tuned to ET Auto EV Conclave. More action coming up next.
Thank you everyone for sharing your points on localizing EV supply chain. Ladies and gentlemen, please share your feedback at the end of the event. This will help us in making our future events better. Stay tuned and keep tweeting using the hashtag ETAutoEVC.